Hey everyone, sorry I've been AWOL for the past couple of weeks. Rob and I did a radio interview or show the other day. I took my mother to it actually, and she sat in the studio, so it was pretty much fun. Got the kookaburras again in the background just as I started this. But anyway, I thought I'd show you that, and later on in the week I can get to a full walkthrough of the garden and let you know what's going on. There's a fair bit of information in this little radio show. I've put some video to it. Again, the sound's not the best, but it should be pretty cool. Thanks a lot for watching. Let's get into it. G'day, I'm Mark Valencia from Self-sufficientme.com. I spent 21 years in the army, and now I'm living the dream by being as self-sufficient as possible. And welcome to another episode of If I Can Do It, You Can Do It.
Hi, big fella.
G'day, Rob. How you going?
Very good, very good. Apologies for our odd format over the last little while. I don't think things have been normal for some time. We've either been trained or we've had Olympics to worry about or whatever else. So.
Yeah, there's plenty going on, isn't there?
Absolutely. But lovely to see you again.
Thanks.
Have you lost weight?
I have.
You have?
Lost, yeah. Thanks for noticing.
What are we talking about?
Well, I've lost about 8 kilos
No.
in the last probably 5 weeks.
What's the secret? What do you want?
Spring's coming up, and you just got to get everything ready for our beautiful weather. And
You're just working hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Getting everything prepared for our spring. Now, I do a lot of work over winter, and a lot of growing over winter because you can grow all those beautiful winter crops up here. But,
Yeah.
but springtime is when all the mangoes start to, come into season.
Have you noticed how everything's all a bit early, though, with all this warm weather? Have you seen
All of my mangoes are early flowering, yeah.
What's that mean? What's that going to mean, do you think?
You can get a second flowering out of your
reckon?
mangoes and other fruit trees.
Yeah.
So maybe if they miss it and it's a bit too cold and they don't set or whatever, they might come again at the right time and then get a good set. You just don't know. Sometimes mangoes can be a bit fickle like that.
Oh, they can, can't they?
Yeah. But,
Fickle old mango.
but the big trees, like we've got one big Kensington Pride or a Bowen, I need to knock its head clean off, like cut half of the top of the tree off so that I can get air to it, because they're historically a terrible setting mango.
Right.
Yeah,
So
especially in this area.
Every winter you're chopping it in half.
Pretty much, yeah, and keeping it nice and aired out. Yeah, if you go past some mango farms, you'll see some of the trees are really lopped off and they're almost horizontal.
They're
some of the branches.
They're onto your tip.
Well, I got it from them.
Yeah. So that's what you got to do.
Yeah, got to trim all the fruit trees.
I always see that at Wise's farm there on the motorway where they have the figs growing, and they're always knocking them back very hard every season, and then they come up pretty strong.
Yeah, that's right.
Mark joins us to discuss his lifestyle, which is usually quite a sustainable one. Oh, by the way, don't forget, I've got a lot of your jars to return here today, and also some homemade yogurt to return.
Fantastic.
A favour. But Mark comes in every now and again, and he tells us about his life living what he calls the dream, and it involves sustainability, self-sustainability. And you wanted today, Mark, to talk about that issue in itself.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions about, how hard is it to live a self-sufficient lifestyle? And really it's a scale thing. It depends on how much you want to be self-sufficient. And so if you just want a little, like my mother...
How self-sufficient are you? Should we start there?
We buy very little fruit and veg from the grocery store, very little. So we don't need to buy a lot of meats either. I mean, I can't grow any of the larger animals, and like yourself, I can't grow up pigs or anything because we can only have one pig on 3 acres in our area.
Yes.
So it'd be unfair, I think, just to keep one pig. So larger animals are harder, but I do keep ducks, quail, chickens.
Japanese quail, we had the salt and pepper fried version of that. I remember that quite right recently, yes.
And so that's what I can do, is you got to do what you can with the yard you've got. Right. But even on 3 acres, that can be, if you're going to really max it out, that can be a lot of hard work.
But we should say as well that you're full-time at this too, aren't you?
Yeah, that's
Pretty
right.
much.
Pretty much. Because I'm a home dad, and when I'm not doing the home dad stuff,
I'm doing the self-sufficiency stuff to save money, eat healthy, and that's the good trade-off with it, is if you work hard, nothing's for free in life. People say, oh, I can grow all my veggies in the backyard and it's free. Well, it's not. It takes time, a lot of effort, and learning curve, and you've got to stay at it, and that's the trade-off. Yes, it's free money-wise, but the cost is your time and your effort.
So I guess we're saying don't go in half-cocked. You've got to be ready to put the effort in.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, like anything in life, you have to be... And some people get into it with these dreams of thinking, I'm just going to sow a whole heap of seeds in my garden beds. It's going to come up like magic, and I'm going to be eating for free, in a couple of weeks' time.
So the possums and the rats.
And
the chickens.
Exactly. You run into all these sorts of issues, but I don't want to scare people off, because the trade-off is the healthy lifestyle.
And what it does as well is it does force you to learn, doesn't it, about what can happen, and then you become far more aware of how nature interacts with us and our food, and that's a big thing, I think. Maybe we don't have that a lot anymore.
That is huge. And what I've noticed is with children, it's even bigger. We appreciate it because we're adults. We know where the food comes from generally. Our children appreciate it even more. I just know, because they see it in the garden, and every night when we eat, my kids say, is this from the garden, Dad?
Well, maybe they've even been involved in the harvest of the...
Well, they do. Some of them...
The dinner item.
Especially the strawberries and the mulberries and all that.
Are your mulberries out already?
No, not... I have had... They're coming out, but because they were too early, like some of the fruit trees, they're drying off and dying off.
Can we take a tangent here? Because I've seen a few trees around lately,
Yeah.
and they're already green.
Yeah.
They're looking like they're coming.
They've come in the middle of winter,
Yeah.
some of ours.
Right.
They'll probably get another flush growth. But those ones that's come in the middle of the winter, a lot of them won't ripen very well.
So they need the spring warmth
Yeah.
to get to the berry status.
Some of the cold seems to kill them off early, and they're not very nice at all.
So when should they be starting to, be juicy and ready?
Well, probably around mid-spring, I'd say.
Mid-spring?
Yeah, generally, and through spring, and they'll keep growing. They'll keep flowering and growing.
For how long?
Well, usually all spring and into summer. If I remember correctly, we've got 2 mulberry trees.
Okay.
And a blackberry bush.
What about things that eat the mulberries?
Birds.
Yeah.
But mulberries are great because they're such a prolific fruiter. Birds don't get them all unless you get a whole flock or something come through. It's never happened to me.
Okay.
Never had to net them.
That was just some interesting little information. I thought I'd get you while you spoke about mulberries. So all right.
Yeah.
So look, we need to be ready to go. We need to be committed. We need to have the kids involved because they're going to love it, and we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, and the kids get involved anyway because they're in the backyard. They're playing cricket.
And I think we're both thinking the same thing. Free labour, right there.
Yeah, well, yes, yeah. That every bit helps.
One day, at 5 months, I'm still yet to enlist the young charger into anything other than just lying down.
Oh, a few more months.
And cooing, and pooing, and crying, and sleeping.
That's a lot of hard work. That is.
No, but I think those are all very interesting things to think about. And then, I mean, where do you get your information from? Obviously, you've gone to the internet, you've gone to places where, you can find out how, at what time you're meant to plant that and how to prune that and what's that furry thing on the leaf and how do I prevent that pest from, all of that stuff can be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, but the internet is such a great place now. Google, you can find out whatever you need really by typing in a question. But the most learning you get is from experience. It might take 2 or 3 years for a new veggie gardener and fruit tree grower to get the grip on it, because it's all well and good to look up when should I plant my garlic, but in a subtropic climate, for example, garlic is quite difficult to grow, and your backyard might be different to the one across a mile away.
Yes.
It's slightly different because of the way the wind blows through, the way the trees are, the way the shade is. And so over years, you develop an understanding. You can plot this yourself and make a diary. I just have it in the old noggin and know that I need to plant garlic, around the start of winter.
Have you ever had a good crop of garlic?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I always get a fairly good crop of garlic. I'm growing garlic at the moment in some wood chip mulch for the first time, just as an experiment. It's growing like the clappers.
Really?
Yeah.
How big are the bulbs?
or they're starting to develop. Garlic takes a long time to grow, so it can take up to 6 months to be ready to harvest. But at the moment, the heads are really great, so it's looking good, and the bulbs are starting to develop, but I won't see that development until probably mid-spring, end of spring, into summer.
Can you tell me as well about planting things out of season?
Yeah, you always hear people say you must plant in season, which is generally the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do. But yeah, there are some exceptions, and one of them, a good example, is growing tomatoes here in our area through winter. The larger tomatoes, and I've talked about this before with you, they don't grow very well, even though winters are fairly mild. Tomatoes like a temperature range between about 18 and 28 degrees. And out of that range, they grow quite poorly. So we're getting some cold mornings. You get sometimes close to zero. Your tomato plants suffer terribly. They get blight, mildew, and you don't get a fantastic crop. But if you grow them now, the fruit fly don't get them. So you can grow the larger varieties, and they'll grow good enough to get at least one good crop around about now, just before the fruit flies hit, if you've planted them, at the beginning of winter or so.
Oh, right.
And and that's a good way to grow out of season. Yes, the plants suffer a bit, but a little bit of care, you'll get a great crop of good large tomatoes. Whereas if you grow them now, where they're going to flourish right at the beginning of spring, and they're coming into flower, and the tomatoes are growing really well mid-spring, end of spring, the fruit fly are going to decimate them unless you cover them. And if you cover them, then you also get the blight and all that. And if they're fruiting into our summer, it's too hot for tomatoes.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Whereas on the other hand, growing out of season with your brassicas, like your cauliflowers and your cabbages, it just can't be done.
Too hot.
It's too hot, and you just won't get a good enough crop. So that rule applies regardless.
Ever had any luck with a bay tree, Mark Valencia?
The bay leaf? Oh, yeah.
You got a bay tree?
Yeah, well, we carried ours we used to live in Albury-Wodonga when I was in the army.
Yeah.
We had a little bay tree, and we grabbed that. That was about the only tree we salvaged. We put it in a pot and put it in the back of my trailer. By the time we got to Brisbane, there wasn't a leaf left on it, because it just got completely wind-burnt and stuffed. And so I planted it in our herb garden at the back of our yard, and I thought it'd just die, and pretty much neglected it. But it sprung back. Now it's about 3 metres high.
Wow.
And whenever we need bay leaf in our roasts or whatever, or cooking, we've got one. It's beautiful.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Just got a little seedling myself. All right, look, we'll leave it there, and we'll reconvene at a time convenient to the both of us, and I hope that's very, very soon. And hello to Mum, Mark Valencia, who's here as well in the background. And I promised her that I wouldn't put her on the radio, which I pretty much just did. Oh. Sorry about that. See you, team. Lovely to see you. It is 10 to 10.